A phone call. A diagnosis. Stage 3 lung cancer. Marcus Washington, Brando's driver of 15 years, sits in the living room of the Mulholland Drive estate, hands shaking, trying not to cry. "Mr. Brando, I need to tell you something. The doctor says I need experimental treatment, $120,000. My insurance won't cover it. I can't afford it. I'm going to die." Brando doesn't say anything for a long moment. He just looks at Marcus, this man who's been more than an employee, who's been family, who taught Brando's kids to drive, who sat at Christmas dinners, who's been there for 15 years through marriages, divorces, deaths, everything. Then Brando stands up. "How much did you say?" $120,000. "But Mr. Brando, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm giving." Brando walks to his study, opens a glass case, and pulls out a gold statue. His 1954 Academy Award for On the Waterfront. The role that made him a legend. Terry Malloy. "I could have been a contender." He brings it back to the living room. "This is worth about $150,000 to collectors. I'm selling it. You're getting treatment." Marcus starts crying. "I can't let you do that. That's your Oscar. That's your legacy." Brando hands him the statue. "Hold this. Feel how heavy it is." Marcus holds it, confused. "It's just metal, Marcus. Cold metal. You know what has weight? You being alive, you seeing your grandkids grow up, that has weight. This doesn't." Within 24 hours, the Oscar is sold. Marcus gets his money. The treatment works. He lives 14 more years. But here's what nobody knew until Brando died in 2004. This wasn't the only Oscar he sold. Over 10 years, he sold all 3 of his Academy Awards, $400,000 total, 6 people's medical bills, 6 lives saved. This is the story of the man who proved that legacy is worthless if you can't save the people you love. To understand why Marlon Brando was willing to sell his most prized possession without hesitation, you need to understand who Marcus Washington was to him. Marcus wasn't just Brando's driver. He was family. They'd met in 1980. Marcus was 43 years old, a former Navy veteran who'd worked various jobs after his service: security guard, warehouse manager, taxi driver. He was working as a chauffeur for a celebrity service when he got assigned to pick up Marlon Brando from LAX. The ride from the airport to Brando's house was supposed to take 45 minutes. Marcus and Brando talked the entire time. About the Navy, about raising kids, about life. When they pulled up to Brando's estate, Brando said, "You have kids, Marcus?" "2. Boy and a girl, 7 and 9. Good ages. Tough ages, too. You work a lot?" "As much as I can. Trying to save for their college." Brando nodded. "You like driving?" "It's honest work. I meet interesting people." Brando smiled. "How'd you like to drive just one interesting person? Full time, good pay, benefits. You'd be around for your kids more." Marcus blinked. "Are you offering me a job, Mr. Brando?" "I am. Think about it. Let me know tomorrow." Marcus called the next morning. "When do I start?" That was 1980. 15 years later, Marcus wasn't just Brando's driver. He was the guy Brando called when he needed to talk. The guy who knew all of Brando's secrets. The guy Brando trusted with his life. Marcus had driven Brando to movie sets, to meetings, to hospitals, to funerals. He'd been there when Brando's mother died, when Brando's son Christian got arrested, when Brando's daughter Cheyenne struggled with mental illness. Through all of it, Marcus was steady, reliable, present, and Brando didn't forget that kind of loyalty. June 8, 1995 started like any other day. Marcus arrived at Brando's house at 9 a.m. to drive him to a meeting. But when Brando came out, he immediately noticed something was wrong. Marcus looked terrible. His face was gray. His hands were shaking. He was trying to hide it, but Brando could tell. "Marcus, you okay?" "I'm fine, Mr. Brando. Just a little tired." "You're not fine. When's the last time you saw a doctor?" Marcus hesitated. "It's been a while." "How long's a while?" "Maybe 5 years?" Brando stared at him. 5 years? "Marcus, you're 58 years old. You need to see a doctor regularly." "I know. I've been busy." "Cancel my meeting. We're going to the doctor right now." "Mr. Brando, I'm okay." "Now, Marcus." They drove to Cedars-Sinai. Brando sat with Marcus in the waiting room. When the doctor called Marcus back, Brando went with him. The doctor ran tests, lots of tests, blood work, x-rays, a CT scan. Marcus had been having a persistent cough for months, some chest pain, shortness of breath. He'd been ignoring it, chalking it up to getting older. 3 hours later, the doctor came back with results. His face was grim. "Mr. Washington, I need to be direct with you. You have stage 3 lung cancer. It's aggressive. It's spread to your lymph nodes. Without treatment, you have maybe 6 months." Marcus's world stopped. He heard the words, but they didn't feel real. Cancer. 6 months. Dying. Brando gripped his shoulder. "What are the treatment options?" The doctor pulled out some papers. "There's a new experimental therapy. It's shown promise in clinical trials, but it's expensive, very expensive, and most insurance companies won't cover experimental treatments. How expensive? Brando asked. The full treatment course would be around $120,000. Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. $120,000. He made $45,000 a year. He had maybe $10,000 in savings. There was no way, no possible way. I can't afford that, Marcus said quietly. The doctor nodded sympathetically. I understand. There are other options. Standard chemotherapy, radiation. They're not as effective for stage 3, but they're covered by insurance. What's the survival rate with standard treatment? Brando asked. About 15% at 5 years. And with the experimental treatment? Closer to 40%. Brando looked at Marcus. You're doing the experimental treatment. Marcus shook his head. Mr. Brando, I can't. It's too much money. I'll pay for it. I can't let you do that. You're not letting me do anything. I'm doing it. End of discussion. They left the hospital in silence. Marcus was in shock. Cancer. $120,000. Brando willing to pay. It was too much to process. When they got back to Brando's house, Brando invited Marcus inside. Sit down. We need to talk. Marcus sat on the couch, still numb. Marcus, you've worked for me for 15 years, but you're not just my driver. You're my friend. You've been there for every terrible thing that's happened to me and my family. You've never asked for anything. You've never complained. You've just shown up every single day. That matters to me. Marcus's eyes were wet. Mr. Brando, I appreciate everything you've done for me. The job, the salary, the respect. But I can't take $120,000 from you. That's insane. Brando stood up. Wait here. He walked to his study. Marcus sat there, confused, exhausted, terrified. A few minutes later, Brando came back carrying a gold statue, his Oscar, the one he'd won in 1955 for On the Waterfront. Marcus stared at it. Mr. Brando, why did you bring that out? Brando handed it to him. Hold this. Marcus took it carefully, like it might break. The statue was heavier than he expected. Cold, solid. You know what that is? Brando asked. Your Oscar for Terry Malloy. Right. You know what it's worth? I don't know. A lot? About $150,000. Maybe more to the right collector. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to give you the money for your treatment. Marcus tried to hand it back. No, absolutely not. That's your Oscar, Mr. Brando. That's your career, your legacy. I can't let you sell it for me. Brando didn't take it back. Marcus, look at that statue. Really look at it. What do you see? Marcus looked down at the gold figure. An award. Recognition. It's metal, Marcus. Just metal. It's been sitting in a glass case in my study for 40 years. I look at it maybe twice a year. And every time I do, you know what I think? What? Nothing. I feel nothing. Because it's a symbol of something that happened a long time ago. It doesn't keep me warm at night. It doesn't make me laugh. It doesn't care if I live or die. It's just there. Brando sat down next to Marcus. You know what does matter? You, your kids, your grandkids. The fact that you showed up at my house the day after my mother died and just sat with me. Didn't say anything. Just sat there. That mattered. The fact that you drove me to the hospital when Cheyenne tried to kill herself and waited in the parking lot for 6 hours until I came out. That mattered. You've given me 15 years of loyalty and friendship, and now you're sick, and I have the power to help you, so I'm going to. Marcus was crying now, full on sobbing. Mr. Brando, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just promise me you'll get the treatment. Fight this thing. Win. That's all I want. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. The next day, Brando called Christie's auction house in New York. This is Marlon Brando. I want to sell my Oscar. How quickly can we do this? The representative on the phone was stunned. Mr. Brando, you want to sell your Academy Award? I do, and I need the money within 72 hours. Can you make that happen? We can try, but I have to tell you there are rules about selling Oscars. The Academy has restrictions. I don't care about the Academy's restrictions. This is my Oscar. I won it, I own it, and I'm selling it. Now, can you help me or not? Yes, sir. We can help. Christie's moved fast. They put out word to their network of high-end collectors. Within 48 hours, they had a buyer. A wealthy businessman who was a huge fan of On the Waterfront. He offered $154,000. Brando accepted. The transaction was completed on June 11, 1995. Brando received a cashier's check for $154,000. He drove straight to Marcus's house and handed it to him. Marcus stared at the check. This is real. It's real. Start your treatment tomorrow. Mr. Brando, how can I ever repay you? Live, Marcus. That's how you repay me. Live. The news of the sale broke 2 days later. Variety ran the headline. Brando sells Oscar for $154,000. The media went insane. Hollywood was outraged. The Academy released a statement expressing disappointment that Brando would sell such a prestigious award. Celebrities weighed in. Some defended him, most didn't. A reporter from the Los Angeles Times called Brando for comment. "Mr. Brando, why did you sell your Oscar? Don't you think that's disrespectful to the Academy and to the award itself?" Brando's response was simple. "My driver has cancer. He needs treatment that costs $120,000. I had a gold statue sitting in my study collecting dust. I sold the statue. He's getting treatment. I'd sell 100 Oscars to save one Marcus Washington. If that's disrespectful, I don't want respect." The quote made headlines. Some people got it, most didn't. The narrative became, "Brando sells Oscar in shocking move. Critics say it devalues the award." Brando didn't care. He'd never cared what people thought, and he certainly wasn't going to start caring now. Marcus began treatment on June 15, 1995. The experimental therapy was brutal. Chemotherapy, radiation, immunotherapy. He lost his hair, lost 40 pounds, spent weeks so sick he could barely get out of bed. But Brando was there, not just paying the bills, actually there. He visited Marcus in the hospital, brought him food, sat with his wife, made sure Marcus's kids had everything they needed. One night, about 3 months into treatment, Marcus was in the hospital recovering from a particularly rough round of chemo. Brando showed up at 9 p.m. with a bag of burgers from Marcus's favorite place. "Can't eat hospital food forever," Brando said, handing him a burger. Marcus smiled weakly. "Mr. Brando, you didn't have to come." "I know, I wanted to. How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck, but I'm alive. That's what matters." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said, "You know what the worst part of all this is?" "What?" "The guilt. I feel guilty every single day that you sold your Oscar for me. That award meant something. And now it's gone. Because of me." Brando shook his head. "Marcus, that award meant nothing. It was a trophy for pretending to be a longshoreman 40 years ago. You're not pretending. You're actually fighting, actually surviving. If I had to choose between a gold statue and you being alive, I'd make the same choice 1,000 times. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Why do you care so much?" "Because you matter. And because most of my life, I've been surrounded by people who only cared about Marlon Brando, the actor. You cared about Marlon Brando, the man. That's rare. That's valuable. And that's worth more than any Oscar." The treatment continued for 2 years. By the end of 1996, the total cost had reached $340,000, way more than the initial estimate. The cancer was stubborn. It required additional rounds of therapy, experimental drugs, consultations with specialists. And Brando paid for all of it. He never asked Marcus to pay him back, never made him feel guilty. Just quietly covered every bill. In early 1997, Marcus got the news. The cancer was in remission. The treatment had worked. He called Brando immediately. "Mr. Brando, I'm clear. The cancer's gone." Brando's voice on the other end was thick with emotion. "That's the best news I've heard in years, Marcus. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. You're a fighter. I just gave you the tools." Marcus lived. He returned to work in March 1997. He was weaker, slower, but alive, and grateful for every single day. Over the next 7 years, Marcus and Brando remained close. Marcus drove him everywhere. They talked about life, family, regrets, joys. Brando attended Marcus's daughter's wedding in 2001. He held Marcus's first grandchild in 2002. And then, on July 1st, 2004, Marlon Brando died at his home. He was 80 years old, respiratory failure. Marcus was devastated. He'd lost more than an employer. He'd lost a brother. The funeral was small, private, only close friends and family. Marcus sat in the front row, still trying to process that Brando was gone. After the funeral, Brando's estate lawyer, Gerald Nance, asked Marcus to stay behind. "Marcus, Marlon left something for you in his will." Marcus was surprised. "He did?" Gerald pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a handwritten note. "Marcus, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm still around, annoying you, asking you to drive me places I don't need to go. But if I'm not, I need you to know something. You saved my life just as much as I saved yours. When I sold that Oscar for your treatment, people thought I was crazy. Maybe I was, but it was the sanest thing I've ever done. Because it reminded me what actually matters. Not awards, not fame, not legacy. People, connection, love. This money is for you and your family. Use it however you want. Take a trip. Spoil your grandkids. Put it in savings. I don't care. I just want you to know that you mattered to me. You still matter, and I'm grateful for every day we had together. Thank you for being my friend." Marcus read the letter 3 times before he could speak. He never told me any of this. Gerald smiled. That was Marlon. He didn't talk about feelings much, but he felt them deeply. Marcus folded the letter carefully. Mr. Nance, can I ask you something? Of course. How much did Mr. Brando spend on my treatment? The total. I know it was more than the Oscar money. Gerald hesitated. Are you sure you want to know? I need to know. Gerald pulled out a file. $340,000 over 2 years. Marcus felt like he'd been punched. $340,000? But the Oscar only sold for $154. I know. Marlon covered the rest out of pocket. He never wanted you to know how much it actually cost. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He gave me 14 extra years of life. I've seen my grandkids grow up. I walked my daughter down the aisle. All because of him. Gerald nodded. Marlon would say you earned it. But the story didn't end there. A week later, Gerald was going through Brando's financial records, preparing the estate for probate. He was looking for assets, debts, anything that needed to be settled. That's when he found something that shocked him. A series of receipts from Christie's auction house. Not just one. 3. Gerald called Christie's immediately. This is Gerald Nance, executor of Marlon Brando's estate. I'm looking at receipts for Oscar sales. Can you confirm these transactions? The Christie's representative pulled up the records. Yes, sir. Mr. Brando sold 3 Academy Awards through us over a 10-year period. Gerald's heart started racing. 3? I thought he only sold 1. The 1954 Oscar. No, sir. He sold 3. The 1954 Oscar for On the Waterfront in 1995 for $154,000. The 1972 Oscar for The Godfather in 1996 for $220,000. And an honorary Oscar in 2001 for $26,000. Total of $400,000. Gerald sat down, stunned. Do you know why he sold them? We don't ask questions, sir. We just facilitate the sales. Gerald hung up and immediately started digging deeper. He found records of payments, medical bills, hospital invoices, all paid by Brando. It turned out that Marcus wasn't the only person Brando had helped. In 1996, a production assistant named Linda Chen was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Her treatment cost wasn't covered by insurance. Brando sold his 1972 Oscar, the one for The Godfather, arguably his most iconic role, and paid her bills. $180,000. In 1998, a studio janitor named Carlos Mendez was diagnosed with diabetes, needed a kidney transplant. Brando paid $40,000 from The Godfather Oscar sale. In 2001, Brando sold his honorary Oscar, used the money to help 3 more people, a makeup artist with breast cancer, a security guard with heart disease, a script supervisor with liver failure. 6 people total, $400,000, all of it from selling his 3 Academy Awards, and he'd never told anyone, not the press, not his friends, not even the people he helped knew where all the money came from. Gerald released a statement on July 15, 2004. It has come to light that Marlon Brando sold all 3 of his Academy Awards over a 10-year period, from 1995 to 2001. The proceeds, totaling approximately $400,000, were used to pay medical bills for 6 individuals. Mr. Brando never sought publicity for these actions. He simply saw people in need and helped them. This was who he was when the cameras weren't rolling. The statement went viral. The media that had criticized Brando in 1995 for selling his Oscar suddenly realized the full story. He hadn't sold one award in a moment of impulse. He'd systematically sold all of his major awards over 10 years to save lives. The Academy, which had condemned him in 1995, released a new statement. We now understand that Mr. Brando's decision to sell his Academy Awards was motivated by compassion and generosity. While we wish he had kept them, we recognize that he used them for a higher purpose. Marlon Brando redefined what it means to be an artist, not just through his performances, but through his humanity. In 2009, Marcus Washington was 72 years old. He'd been cancer-free for 12 years. He was retired, living in San Diego, spending his days with his grandchildren. A documentary filmmaker named Rachel Torres tracked him down for a film about Brando's life. She asked him about the Oscar sale. Marcus agreed to be interviewed. He sat in his living room, surrounded by photos of his family, and told the story. Marlon Brando saved my life. That's not hyperbole. That's fact. In 1995, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. I had 6 months without treatment. I couldn't afford the treatment I needed. And Marlon sold his Oscar, his 1954 Oscar, for On the Waterfront, the role that made him a legend, to pay for it. Rachel asked, "How did that make you feel?" Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Guilty at first. I thought, I'm not worth that. I'm just a driver. That Oscar means something. But Marlon told me something I'll never forget. He said, that Oscar is just metal. You're alive. You matter. That's worth more than any award. He paused, wiping his eyes. I've had 14 extra years of life because of him. I've seen my grandchildren born. I walked my daughter down the aisle at her wedding. I've had Christmas mornings and birthdays and quiet moments with my wife that I never would have had. All because Marlon chose me over a gold statue. Rachel asked, do you visit his grave? Every year. On the anniversary of when he sold the Oscar, June 11th, I go to his grave and I bring flowers and I say thank you, because I don't think I said it enough when he was alive. What do you say now? Marcus smiled through his tears. I say, I'm still here, boss, because of you, and I'm living every day like it's a gift, because it is. Today, Marcus Washington is 78 years old. He's still cancer-free, still visiting Brando's grave every June 11th. The other 5 people Brando helped, Linda Chen, Carlos Mendez, and the 3 others, are all still alive too. All of them credit Brando with giving them a second chance. In 2019, the Academy Awards ceremony included a tribute to Brando on the 15th anniversary of his death. The segment focused not on his performances, but on the Oscar sales. They interviewed Marcus, Linda, and Carlos. All 3 shared their stories. The segment ended with a quote from Brando, taken from a 1999 interview he rarely gave. People ask me if I regret selling my Oscars. They think I must feel like I lost something important, but I didn't lose anything. I gained something. I gained the knowledge that I could use my privilege to save lives, and that's worth more than all the gold statues in the world. The story of Marlon Brando selling his Oscars isn't just about generosity. It's about redefining what legacy means. Most people spend their lives chasing recognition, awards, honors, proof that they mattered. But Brando understood something deeper. Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you give away. He could have kept those Oscars in a glass case, let them collect dust for another 40 years, and when he died, they would have been auctioned off anyway, probably for even more money, and the proceeds would have gone to his estate. But instead, he sold them while he was alive, used them to save 6 people, 6 lives that would have ended without him. And those 6 people went on to live full lives. They had children, grandchildren, careers, joy, love, all of it possible because Brando decided that cold metal was less important than warm blood. Marcus Washington said it best in his 2009 interview. Marlon Brando won 3 Academy Awards in his life, but the greatest thing he ever did was sell them, because those awards made him famous, but selling them made him human. And that's the legacy that matters. Every year on June 11th, Marcus Washington drives to Westwood Village Memorial Park. He brings a bouquet of flowers, yellow roses, Brando's favorite, and places them on Brando's grave. He kneels down, touches the headstone, and says the same thing every time. I'm still here, Marlon, still breathing, still living, because of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And somewhere, in whatever comes after, maybe Brando hears him, and maybe he smiles, because that's what mattered all along, not the awards, the lives.